Welcome to the New Discovery Christian Podcast, where you'll find Bible messaging and sermons that will encourage, uplift, and challenge you to a godlier life. Join our community and become inspired to continue living a God-directed life.
It looked like you're in the zone, action.
Welcome again to the New Discovery Podcast. You guys already know all of our names already, so we won't hashtag that again. Today, we're going to be going over another topic that was pretty popular when we went over it the first time. So we're going to go for round 2 now. So we're going to go over hot versus beautiful part 2.
Fight.
So this time we got a couple guys, but we got a girl as well with us. So that's going to help us with our discussion.
He says that every time. He's like, and now we have a girl.
Yep. I'll just do that for
We are
a little
examining a female on this podcast. Look at her as she laughs. She won't talk very much.
Pan to her camera. So we're going to jump in with some questions and we got some warm-up questions. We'll kind of go from there, and we'll go a little deeper into the ocean of hot versus beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there's no way to do it, but just ask the question.
All right. What you got
So
for
what
us?
do you guys think when you hear hot?
I'm just going to be honest. I think of like girls on the beach.
Okay.
And I'm not going to go any further for personal
Further than
reasons.
that. Oh. Okay.
All right. What do you think about hot, McKinley?
I mean, I think it's a compliment.
A compliment.
It's a compliment that like girls and guys get, right?
I would think so. I think it's a compliment.
Like guys get that.
I feel
Not
like it's a little
maybe.
derogatory.
What do you mean?
Like hot is kind of like,
I feel like it's mainly for it. Like it's probably spoken to girls, but guys get hot too a lot.
Have you
Yeah.
ever been called hot, Javan?
no, have you?
Yeah.
Oh.
I've been called hot a few times. But typically
Sorry,
when I've
Javan.
been called that, they're people that I don't know. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
it makes it
yeah.
more funny. I don't know, but like usually they're people like at my work or like random people. They're not like people that are close to me typically. They won't call me
That is
hot.
kind of true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like more stranger. Like if they're complimenting you, it'll be a stranger that says that.
Or I overhear it or something like that. I'll usually be called handsome by people that I know typically, or it's like my family. Like I won't have my aunt be like, "Ooh, you're hot, Kyle." Like I typically don't get that necessarily.
Like I meant it was derogatory as in like, it's kind of like linked to being like sexual. Like, I don't know. It's kind of linked to just your looks and just like maybe what you're wearing.
It's definitely more materialistic. Than
Yeah.
I feel it's
handsome
more
or beautiful.
surface layer.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way that I see it. It's like what you're wearing and just
How
like
you look.
yeah. I typically think of someone who's like a model. Is that what you guys kind of think when you think of hot specifically?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like,
That's why I like the beach like scene like is put in my mind.
was that the part you didn't want to mention?
Yeah, because I mean, what do you think about when you think of a model?
I guess you think of aesthetic features.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think of a model, like, you don't know anything about their character. You don't know anything about them necessarily. So I guess you go off of how does their jaw look, other parts of their bodies, their legs.
Like girls' jaws?
Jaw specifically.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like we were. I mean, we were
How's
talking.
your jaw look?
Does she look like a shark?
A shark, a crocodile. I mean, like you
Like-
were over at my place the other time, and you asked me
Yeah.
about Angelina Jolie, and do I think she's a beautiful woman? I don't know if I would.
I wasn't.
either,
Yeah,
but
I was basically saying I don't find her attractive.
But she could pass as a model, though. I feel.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
she's got like sharp features.
Yeah, like her jaw has certain sharp features in certain areas, and just the way she conducts herself. You know, she's really thin, and I don't know. I guess that's what I think of.
Yeah.
Just the aesthetic features of someone. So I guess that's yeah. I mean, that's what I think of. But what do you guys think of when it comes to beautiful? Just right off the bat, what comes right off the bat for you guys?
You ever been called beautiful?
No.
No.
I guess if I was to think of a beautiful girl, I would think more of like, I mean, yeah, she would be attractive, but she also has like characteristics that are really cool, like funny, maybe outgoing, like confident, honest, and just like a fun vibe that she brings to the table. So it's like it goes deeper into like whether she's hot or not. I feel like it's like a deeper, like that's when you truly know the person. I feel like you'd say, yeah, she's beautiful.
I feel the same way. Now, I don't really know if I figured out whether I can find out if someone's beautiful. I know I can definitely find out if someone's beautiful knowing them for a while. I feel confident in saying that. I'm trying to find out if I can know that immediately before knowing someone. And I know you can with hot, if I'm honest. But with beautiful, I'm trying to find out if you can really know without knowing the person first. And like you said, I think they're still an attractive person to me, but that doesn't. But I don't necessarily think just because someone's attractive means they're hot. Maybe that's just me. I think there may be a difference. Someone can maybe not be model hot, but they're still an attractive person to me. And I feel like that person. Now, I guess you could be hot and still beautiful. I don't know. Maybe that can get mixed up a little bit. But I still think someone can be beautiful and they're an attractive person, and maybe they're not necessarily aesthetically a model. I mean, not everyone looks like a model. I mean, and that's okay.
We're going full Einstein right now.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I really had to think about this a little bit from the last podcast to this one when it came to that, and I think that though, and and that's fine. And
what's y'all's percentage of like, say that a person, like what would the percentage have to be of looks and personality? Like how important would it be? Like 50%, 20%, 80%? Like what would it be?
Personality is so much more important.
So what would you give the percentage?
Probably like a 70-30, 60-40.
So 70 looks, 30%
No.
personality.
No, switch it.
Oh,
Okay, got you. What about you, Kyle?
This is a really good question. Because now you know that a lot of my school has been in psychology. So for 4 years, a lot of my school has been in psychology.
Here we go.
So I'm gonna make a statement here in a minute, and then I'm gonna talk about me personally. So when it comes to, in a general sense, people may not like this, but off just from appearances, guys date for looks, women typically date for success. That's a general rule. There's more specifics into that, and that's why I'm saying that on a general rule. And here's my personal, here's Kyle after that. So I would say that whoever I'd say attractiveness is high. I think of it kind of like a test. I think maybe this is the best way I can bring it up. It's like a test. That person needs to be attractive. I think if it's a girl, for me specifically, I need to be attracted to her. I would say that's really important. Now, that may be maybe a 50% of what I'm looking for. Maybe even a 60%. Maybe let's say 60% for Kyle. Good looks is important. 60%, you still fail in a test. So it may be high up there, but it's like, you're high, but if that's all you have to offer, then, because I'm looking for someone to date and I'm looking for someone to marry. I'm not Kyle going out to the beaches and looking for someone for a one-night stand. I'm just going to be honest. And maybe that 60% is good enough for another guy. And it's like, well, that's 60%. That's all I'm looking for. So that's 100% for him. Well, you can go do whatever you want, bud. That's not for me, though. So it's important, but if that's all, then it's a no-go for me then. Important, but it's still a no-go. And that other percentage, at least 40%, is filled in after that. What is her personality? I think that hits immediately. What is her personality like? Is it similar to mine? Is it different from mine? Do we sync up very well with each other in our conversations and interests and things like that? That's immediate. I think that comes right off the bat, right after the looks. And then I guess that's like a progression of a relationship, because then after that, what is her character like? Is she a Christian? Is she not a Christian? Is she devoted? What does she believe about her faith? Things like that. I think that immediately is going to be there. And after that, those other little things about her character that you wouldn't know unless getting to know that person for a longer period of time. And then, politics will eventually enter into that and all of that. Are they feminists? Things like that.
Sorry.
Maybe we can work that out if we work through the other things. I don't know. But I mean, that's a factor in there. And so I guess that's the way that I see how attractiveness enters in for me. And that may be from more of a guy's perspective as well, though. And I guess that's me being honest here. And some people may not like that I just said what I said. Maybe there's someone who's like, that Christians say it should be 100% just personality and character. But I don't think I'm going to be honest, though, is from a guy's perspective at that point. And that may hurt some feelings. Some people may not like that. But I want to just be honest, though. I want to put everything on the table. But at the same time, I'm not going to be like, yeah, it's all looks, and just appease a bunch of guys, because that I'm still not being honest. That's the honesty for me.
I think there are plenty of girls and guys out there with great personalities and characteristics and stuff, but if you're not attracted to them, then can you really have a relationship with them? It doesn't have to be everything. It's not going to be everything, but I mean, that makes sense. You have to be attracted to the person that you want a future with, or that you want to get to know, right? You want to get to know more than just their looks, right?
Also, when you said y'all have to link up in a conversation, don't feel weird around each other, I swear I think that's super important, because I hate when you're talking to a really attractive chick and she has no personality and you have to do all the work and all the heavy lifting of the conversation, and you just want to die. It shouldn't feel like that. It should be a 50-50 conversation. Effort is being put in on both sides, so it's not weird or it's not awkward. Y'all just mesh together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you have zero personality and it's just 100% looks and that's what you bank off of, it just, I find that unattractive. She could be really hot, but if she's boring, then it's just So yeah, personality. She's gotta. I think outgoing girls are really attractive, honestly.
What would you define as outgoing exactly? Because you have different personalities. You have
some guys
introvert and
shy
extrovert.
girls, but shy girls, you literally have to do everything, talking wise. And that can be annoying. It's all right to approach girls and start the conversation, but when you constantly have to do it, it just seems like you're doing 80% of the work and they're doing 20% just by answering questions.
I could tell you one thing. There's it's kind of slightly getting off track, but there's a difference between being shy and introvert. If you're introvert, that's a personality. Being shy is a character deficit, essentially. It would be like someone saying, oh, that person who always talks about themselves, they're just extrovert. No, if you just talk about yourself all the time, you're not an extrovert. You're just into yourself. You're just vain. That's all. And that's a character deficit. Some people get mixed up in that. And I'm coming from a person who was shy at one point, especially when I moved from California to here. I had some issues adapting, and I'll admit that it wasn't in a good place. But so I don't think you want to find a shy person, because that's a character deficit. And I'm not saying anyone who's shy should be ashamed of themselves. I'm not saying that. That's coming from a person who was at one point. I'm just saying, now if you're introvert, that's different though. I'm an introvert. There's nothing wrong with that. I just lean on the side of when I need to recoup. I prefer to be by myself doing something with a book, taking a nap. Stuff like that recoups me. But I still like being around people. It's just, I like to select the time, and I'm just not as big of a fan as just giant parties and stuff like that. Even though I'll do them, though, I can have some fun. I'll do them. It's just that doesn't recoup my energy, though. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know?
Yeah.
Oh,
were you gonna say something? Mm-mm. I was gonna say I would say I'm introverted. I need a recharge day every week just to be around nobody. And I feel like it sucks energy out of me when I have to like go out of my way to be extroverted when I'm not, and the other person is like not giving me any feedback. Like that sucks the life out of me. So it's like maybe that's a personal thing. Like, and that's why I prefer like outgoing people, because I can like, it's easier for me to match their level. I don't know.
Yeah, I see.
There's probably some science behind it.
I kind of want to bring it back to when you're talking about if there's a person that, because this aspect is here, and whether anyone wants to talk about it or not is, I'm not saying this in a general sense, but I have seen very likely and very high that this is a real thing, is that some people when they were growing up and they were always considered hot, whether that's a guy or a girl, and they were always told, given everything and, oh, look how great you are, everyone's going to come down, and everyone acts kind of like worshiping them and bowing down to their knees. And this is a thing. I think those are the people that you're talking about. Now, that's not everyone that we would consider hot, but there are some people that are like that, though. And when I encounter those people, they seem to be very into themselves, and they seem to always let you know how good looking they are and kind of flexing those looks on people and that they're so hot. I get that vibe that is like almost like an atmosphere around them of that. And I've told some guys, like some people, there's been some girls like that, and they're like, oh, go off and date her, Kyle. Like, why not? Or sometimes it'd be like, hey, she's into you. Like, break a move. She's hot, so do it.
Bust a move.
Yeah. And I won't say any names, but there was a girl specifically. Well, there was one that was a model. And then there was one in high school where she was on the cheerleading team. And both sides, people were like, go after, do it. Like, but I was like, I'm not attracted to her, though. And that's what I really thought about with this podcast was I was like, I could say, yeah, they're hot. And, I mean, they're good looking. But I wasn't attracted to them, though.
Yeah.
And so that needs to also be said with what I said earlier with the 60-40. I wasn't attracted to them because I felt like they were really into their looks and things like that, and they didn't have those other things that I was talking about, or like close to zero. And I was like, there's nothing else going for me, honestly.
And maybe for somebody else there was something there. Like that person may have just matched better with somebody else, but there has to be more than looks to that. Like there can be a really attractive person, but there might not be enough substance there for you guys to click on other levels.
Right. Yeah.
It's more than just like looking good in pictures or saying like, oh, everybody else thinks this person's attractive, so I should go for them. Like,
there's like the initial, like when you first meet somebody, initially like you make a choice in your mind whether they're attractive or not. I feel like that like opens the door. How do I want to say this? Like,
to like whether you could be attracted to them or not.
Yeah, like if they're like hot or something, that's like that gets you there. But like that's the, and then the personality is whether you stay or not. That's what I meant to say. Like,
yeah,
it's only important to like spot you in a crowd. I feel like whether you're attractive, and then once you meet them, the personality is like what's important. And what makes you stay or not.
I'm going to end off on this question because we're getting kind of close to the time we were looking at. Believe it or not, it blows by really quickly.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like what we've been hashing on at the end, but we just haven't clearly said it. And so all that being said, everything that we just said, is what do you guys think of how the mixture of, we kind of been talking about it a little bit, but let's be open about it, of how hot and beautiful mesh versus when you first started meeting someone, like you're dating them, versus all the way to getting more serious in the dating and then considering marrying them. Now, we kind of already talked about that a little bit, but how does that mix in together into your decisions in all of those different areas? Thinking about dating them, getting deeper in the relationship, and then considering marrying this person. When it comes to hot and beautiful, how does that mesh in for you personally?
I haven't thought about marrying anybody yet, but I'd imagine if I like can't go a day without thinking or being with that person, I'd want to marry him. Could you repeat the question? I'm not
like
really
it's
sure
like
what
how
was
do you
asking.
consider hot and beautiful when it comes to someone that you want to be serious with? Like when you first start dating someone, how does hot and beautiful enter into it, and getting more and more serious? How do those factors enter into your dating and getting serious with someone?
Well, when you have feelings for somebody, like, looks don't matter at all. Like, they just don't. So I guess it only matters in, like, the dating phase when you're getting to know them and you haven't yet, like, maybe created feelings for them yet. That's the only time when outer looks really matter, I think. Like, once you develop feelings, it just doesn't matter. You just want to be with them. You just want to spend time with them, talk with them, and that's enough. And I guess that's when you would want to consider marriage, is when you just like them, it doesn't matter on their outward appearance.
How about you, Kinley? What do you think about that?
I mean, it's kind of like we've been talking about, is that you can have that initial attraction where you think this girl or guy is like really hot, like you think they're really attractive, but you have to build more off of that. And so that kind of comes into play. Like, if initially a guy just thinks that I'm hot, then that doesn't really give me like a signal that he wants a relationship with me. It kind of is like, oh, I'm seeing you, I think you're attractive, like, but I associate that word with like, oh, I'm sexy, or like my looks are good, I'm good looking, but not in like the beautiful sense is more than that. It's like you can, and I think what you said earlier, I think you can see someone and think, oh, they're not just hot, but they're beautiful, like when first seeing them. Because I think that you see a little bit more of their personality in it. Like, are they having fun in like what you're seeing? Are they like easygoing? Can you see a little bit more than just like they're trying to look good? Does that make sense?
That
like,
makes sense.
You see some people in pictures and it's like they're posing a certain way, they're looking a certain way, dressing a certain way just to look hot. But there's more than that if someone's beautiful or handsome or just extremely good looking, because you can kind of see deeper into that. And when you call someone beautiful, or, like the equivalent, like handsome, then there's like a deeper level to that. It's like, oh, not just your looks are attractive, but like everything else about you is really attractive too. Like you said, girls look at success, and like, if I'm telling that guy like, oh, you're really attractive, but not just in a hot way, then it's like, not just your looks are attractive, like your ambition's attractive, your personality, your humor, like that's all really attractive. And all of those play into a part of something deeper that you want with that person, like considering marriage, considering dating, considering having a future with them, and building upon that is more than just the initial attraction. It's what you see like after that. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
I have a question for y'all.
Yeah.
Okay.
If y'all like mesh together perfectly and got along and y'all had feelings for each other, do you think it'd be okay if she wasn't a believer? Like, would y'all date a non-believer, I guess is what I'm asking.
I have been on a date with a non-believer, but I didn't find out until I was on the date. So that was a thing.
Would you be okay with like furthering the relationship if y'all got along well and it was just, but you knew that she didn't have a relationship, like she wasn't like a full-blown atheist, like, and didn't have like that standpoint, but like if she wasn't a believer, would you still like go for that?
I think we talked about in like an earlier episode about how like you have to be equally yoked, or I think I said that in something, and I think like you could have gone on that date and been like, oh, like you went on that date not because you knew already that she was a non-believer and you're like, oh, it's fine, like, but you found out then, but you went on that date because you were probably attracted to her. She had a good personality, right?
Yeah.
But when you find out further, you have to realize, like, can you guys really link if you guys have, like, different core values? I mean, that might just be for you personally to decipher.
Yeah. I'm going to hash off of what McKinley said with that as well, because that's the analysis of how that kind of went down. Am I willing... Because it enters into kind of what we've talked about with getting to know people, how we've talked about how sometimes we like to date people who become friends first, and then we start to date them. So that was kind of happening at that moment. But I just still didn't know that factor. So I took a chance. I took a risk, and I went for it. And there was some other things just besides.
Do it. Tell it.
Well, it also turned out that she was bisexual and she was a feminist. But those things also backed me off.
Did you kick her out of the car?
I did not. But, that's interesting because I was still attracted to her.
Yeah.
But, I mean, once I found out there were certain things that we just couldn't work out, I still went on the date. I mean, we're still on the way there, and we still had a good time, which is what was crazy. But still, I factored those things in. I was like, I want her to get to know my family, and I would want her to get to know my church and come to church, and I would have to factor those things in. Do I feel proud to bring this person to my family on a Thanksgiving dinner and talk about who she is and what she's into? I don't know if I would with some of those factors and then bring her to church. And it was like, that's starting not to sync with my life and who I am. So I had to factor that in. Now, did I still have a good relationship with her at school? Yeah, I just found ways to still talk to her and not ask her on another date. And even though she was kind of looking for it. So I would say you gotta link up somehow. It's good to take risks. But at a certain time, you got to find out who are you, and are you still going to date this person if it doesn't link up very core things of who you are? And then you got to ask the question, are these core things of who I am too? So it's just entering into that, and it's being okay with some relationships not being 100% on your character and values, but that's okay because that's not the person you're going to be with for the rest of your life. And I guess you just try to figure that out with dating. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it, maybe a few dates, and then you find those things out. And it's like, well, it's just not going to work. But you went on a couple dates. But if you start being boyfriend and girlfriend and it goes on, months and years, it's like, she's not a Christian. I don't know. And in the midst of that, you need to talk to your Christian friends and some wise mentors, counselors, your pastors, youth ministers, and you need to kind of include them in your family. Include mom and dad, either one of them, in your relationship. I found that that's actually very enriching. I found if they're actually Christians and they're very devoted, and including them in those things. I have, and I could tell you, it's enriched my relationships, and I've stood my ground when I need to stand my ground because it's like they gave me the strength and the oomph that I didn't have, because sometimes you can get all flimsy and, my feelings, and that kind of helps bring some structure to the feelings. And then once that happens, it's like you can make the good decisions you need to do. So I think it's a wisdom thing too, I feel like, as well.
Yeah. And when I say it's a personal decision, I don't just I'm not saying just because you didn't meet him in your youth group or just because you didn't meet him on Christian Mingle, don't write him off. There's still more to a person than just that. But at the same time, people link differently. Would you be better off as friends? Would you still have a really good, enriching relationship with them without a romantic relationship? Don't write them off just because you didn't meet them a certain way, or because I don't know what I was trying to say with that. Just there's a lot of characteristics to a person, and so you just kind of have to figure out how you mesh with them.
Yeah, I think that's good.
And some people just go through a rough patch in their lives when they're not in church, or they're not living like they should, but it's just I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess they could be going through something rough, and you shouldn't just write them off because I don't know what I was going with that.
I think what you were both going with that is that there's other, it's not a black and white. There's other factors that are going on in there, and I think that's why I tried to mention surround yourself with good Christians, a good youth group, good young adults group, and mentors and counselors and pastors that can tell you wise things that you need to hear. And I think in that gray area at times, it'll help bring you to where you need to be. It'll give you that strength. If you're willing to listen. If you're not willing to listen, then you need to work on that, I think, then. And then you can work on surrounding yourself with those people. And I think that'd be really, really helpful. So I think we'll cut it off right here, but good discussion. So thank you for joining in again on the New Discovery podcast with all three of us with the Hot versus Beautiful Part 2. And I can tell you, I feel like there's going to be a Part 3 because there's a couple things I even wanted to say. But I hope you enjoyed this. Like and subscribe, hit that bell button, and we'll see you again on the next one. Maybe Part 3.